Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to The Current Word here on WSHO Radio in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we're glad to have you along for the ride. We're now glad to welcome to our special call-in line Christopher Holton. Christopher is a resident of the greater New Orleans area, but he is also the Vice President for Outreach for the Center for Security Policy. And Christopher has a long history in corporate America, working at Blanchard and Company on the North Shore, and now is director of Director of Outreach for the National Center for Security Policy, which is an amazing organization doing great research work and keeping us abreast of what's going on with national security. Christopher, welcome to The Current Word. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you having me back on.
Christopher, so before we get too involved in some of the topics, let's go ahead and tell everyone about this meeting that you're having in about 2 weeks. So why don't you tell us about that, and then I have some topics I'd like to bring before you.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you allowing me to plug this briefing that we're putting on. We've established a Gulf South Regents here in the Gulf South region, and our honorary chairman is Eric Skermetta, who is a local dignitary and elected official whose grasp and understanding of the national security threats that we face is unsurpassed of all the elected officials that I've met around the country. He's going to be the host of this event on May 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. At 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, May 7th at the Atmos Center at 101 Airline Drive, Metairie. We're going to have a series of 4 speakers talking about terrorism and their experiences, in some cases, direct experiences in fighting jihadis overseas, as well as some of the other aspects of jihad that we faced, including lawfare. We're having a legal scholar. We'll do a briefing on that. And I will be talking about some of the issues regarding Muslim Brotherhood infiltration right here in our own state. Mm-hmm. We hope to get a nice crowd. There's no charge for admission or anything like that. And if somebody would like to RSVP to the event, we do request that you RSVP. Go to, you can email us at cspgulfsouth@usa.com. That's cspgulfsouth@usa.com. If you send an email to that address to let us know that you would like to attend, we'll sign you up. That's cspgulfsouth@usa.com. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I'll post that in the show notes for today. So in case someone is driving, we don't want them to get in a wreck or anything. And this will be on the podcast, too. So if you want to go back later and listen, you can hear what Christopher's saying. The Atmos building is in Metairie, Louisiana, and it is right near the New Orleans Jefferson Parish line. Right, Christopher?
Yes, it's right behind Metairie Country Club, in fact.
Okay, great. So it's on Airline Highway, and it's going towards New Orleans. It's real close to the parish line. All right. So, Christopher, I'm really intrigued by your topic. It's called The Louisiana Purchase, a Case Study in Sharia and Muslim Brotherhood Infiltration. Now, I don't want you to give away your whole talk because we want people to go there and hear it. But could you just tell that I'm intrigued by that? Like, what? Just give us a little teaser on what that might be about.
I'm going to be talking about 3 aspects of that. I'm going to be talking about a legacy of jihadis who have existed here in Louisiana, going back to the 1970s, believe it or not. And I'm going to be naming names. Then I'm going to also be talking about the oldest Muslim Brotherhood organization in the United States and its presence here in Louisiana, in several places around Louisiana. And then I have a final topic that I'm going to be covering about Louisiana, about a specific Muslim Brotherhood presence in the greater New Orleans area.
Yikes.
Which I can discuss.
Yikes.
That's about as much as I want to say about it without giving it away, if you don't mind.
All right, then. So, again, this is a conference that is being put on by the Center for Security Policy. Frank Gaffney is the head of that organization. And this is the Gulf South Regents briefing. It's specifically for this region. Several great speakers. Also, Stephen Gillet, who I also happen to know is a pro-life attorney and also very involved with national security policy, will be speaking there. The Eric Scrametta, who is the Public Service Commissioner from our area here in Louisiana, and our friend Christopher here will be speaking there. And this is May 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Atmos building, which is on Airline Highway near the Orleans Parish line. All right, we'll mention that again.
Let me also mention real quick, Tommy Waller will be speaking. He's our Vice President for Special Projects at the Center for Security Policy. He did 6 combat tours over in the Middle East. And also retired Marine Colonel Paul Deckert, who's involved with us, will be speaking. And he did multiple combat tours over in the Middle East as well.
Awesome.
So we're going to be talking about many aspects of this threat.
All right. So let's just talk about a few other topics if you have time, Christopher. You recently wrote an article that was posted, and it was called "The Shame of Sri Lanka and the West." So Monday morning, we talked about on this show how on Easter Sunday we woke up to find out that Christian churches and luxury hotels in Sri Lanka, which seems kind of an obscure, out-of-the-way place, many people were killed, many people injured, and many saw this as an attack on Christianity, on Christians in particular, since it was an Easter Sunday bombing. First, any thoughts you have about that, and then I'd like to get your perspective on why you thought the article you wrote, "The Shame of Sri Lanka and the West."
Well, it was an attack on Christianity. It was an attack on Christians. They specifically targeted Catholic churches in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has about a 7% Christian population, which is overwhelmingly Catholic, and the jihadis, who incidentally came from one of the wealthiest families in Sri Lanka. So if somebody tries to tell you that jihad is caused by poverty, you can tell them that's wrong. And so they targeted 3 churches and 4 luxury hotels where Westerners were known to frequent. And they did it with backpack bombs. There was the final bomb that went off, a 9th bomb, actually, 8th bomb, was at the home of this cell where the wife of the cell leader, who was pregnant and had her other children with her, set the bomb off, killing herself and her children, rather than be captured by Sri Lankan security forces. 359 people killed, including 45 children who were receiving their first communion, over 500 wounded. So it was the Islamic State, ISIS's, most successful attack based on body count. More people killed in that attack than any other attack that ISIS has carried out in its history.
Wow. That is amazing. Now, the nation of Sri Lanka, which is right off the coast of India, it's I guess it's not too far. I don't know how far it would be from India. But
very close to India.
Yeah, it's an island.
A small island off the peninsula.
Yeah.
Very close to India.
Yeah. And it is primarily Hindu, right? Hindu?
Yeah, about 70% Buddhist, actually.
Buddhist, okay, I'm sorry.
And,
Buddhist.
And then they have a Hindu population, which is second to that, and then about equally Muslim and Christian population, about 7%.
Okay, so in your thinking, so there's not a huge Islamic presence on this island, and certainly not right across, on the mainland of India, there's not a huge Islamic presence. Why do you think they picked this sort of nondescript country to attack?
I think they picked the targets based on where they thought that there would be less security, the least amount of chance of failure. They had a prime target selected. They had a group of individuals who were motivated and wanted to do this, who had pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and had no doubt selected the target based on reconnaissance and experience. And they don't make their decisions based on their population percentages. They make their decision based on what effect they can have. You have to understand that to the Muslims, the jihadis especially, the subcontinent, India, of which Sri Lanka is part of the subcontinent geographically, is a huge deal for them. They've been fighting over the subcontinent since the founding of Islam, virtually, and that is a huge battleground for them. They view it as extremely significant, whereas, in the West, we may not view it that way, but in warfare, the enemy's reality becomes your reality, and they chose this target, and it wasn't a surprise at all to me, because a few years ago, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the head of al-Qaeda, announced that they were forming al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent and pivoting toward the east. Mm-hmm. I think we're seeing that focus that al-Qaeda originally put on the subcontinent is now breeding other jihadis in that area. Mm-hmm. And so it did not come as a surprise to me that they would choose that target.
And apparently it wasn't really a surprise to the government officials, right? They had been warned that these attacks were possibly imminent. Supposedly an Islamic group has taken credit for this, but some people are not giving that much credence. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's an Islamic State attack. There was a local affiliate of the Islamic State that they've been looking at for some time now. But the Islamic State, what we're seeing now, when we took down the caliphate in Syria, we did not defeat the Islamic State. We dispersed it. And so what we're seeing now is ISIS 2.0. Mm-hmm. And what we're about to see, unfortunately, is returning jihadis to these areas. Evidently, some of these people had fought in Syria and Iraq, came back to Sri Lanka, and participated in these attacks. The Islamic State published videographic and photographic evidence indicating that this was their operation, and it included a picture of the leader of the cell with the ISIS flag. So I don't think there's any doubt that this was an Islamic State operation.
Mm-hmm. Now, Christopher, what have you thought about the mainstream media coverage of this horrific event? Have you been satisfied with the way that it has been covered? Do you think that it's been truthful in helping American people to understand really what happened there?
Well, I would contrast it with what happened in Christchurch, New Zealand, mm-hmm. When the mosques were attacked, because that got an unbelievable amount of coverage. I'm not saying that it didn't deserve an unbelievable amount of
right.
coverage, but when I was leaving the movie Breakthrough late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. I guess it was about 12:15 after the movie, and I had my phone turned on vibrate. I get a automatic text alert when there is a terrorist attack somewhere in the world from an intelligence agency, and my phone buzzed on my belt 4 times
as I was leaving the theater. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I knew that the only thing that could be was a terrorist attack somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so the next morning, and I looked when I got home, and sure enough, At that point, they had said that they were just indicating that churches and hotels in Sri Lanka had been attacked.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any details yet at that point. But the next morning, I woke up, turned on the news, and all I heard about was the Mueller report and the Russia collusion hoax. And I felt like I was in a time warp because for 2 years, all we've heard from the media is about the Mueller report and the Russia collusion, Russia, Russia, which is, to me, at this point, the ultimate fake news story, and completely ignoring this huge story. And let's face it, if these people who have been killed were Europeans, this would be a stop the press's huge story.
Mm-hmm.
But our media, our so-called mainstream media, who likes to think of themselves as progressive, they don't really care about when brown people get killed in large numbers.
Mm.
They don't really cover it too much and to any degree.
And Christians, too. That's another thing. It's a couple of problems.
Oh yeah. And several politicians, including Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and Raul Castro, too, which is interesting, all use the same terminology to describe the victims as Easter worshipers. They would not use the term Christians. They would not admit that this was an attack on Christians. They all use the term Easter worshipers.
Right, that's amazing. Talk about that for a minute, Christopher. I hadn't mentioned that on the show, but that seemed to be like it was Hillary Clinton, President Obama. Talk about that. Expound on that a little bit.
And the head of Cuba. They were all using the same exact language.
Wow.
Almost like they were coordinating.
Yeah. So repeat exactly what they said as far as the anomaly in the way that they expressed it.
They used the term Easter worshipers to describe the victims. They didn't use the term Christian anywhere.
Wow.
And who worships at Easter?
Yeah. Who worships Easter? They worship the God of the Easter resurrection, but people don't worship Easter. In other words, it would be so unlikely that someone who was even vaguely familiar with Christianity would use such terminology. But the fact that more than one person was using it, it was almost like it was a talking point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what struck me. It's very clear that they were singing from the same sheet of music.
Yeah.
Now, where that sheet of music was, I don't know. But
that is crazy.
Here we had it.
Let me get
it is crazy.
Let me get your comment on one more topic that one of our listeners brought up, and then we'll go to a break. Okay, so this topic is about the southern border, which I know you are very familiar with. And the Department of Homeland Security and Americans are very concerned that just in the last 5 days, 7,000 border crossers and illegal aliens are being released into the interior of the United States. What in the world is going on with that, and what are the dangers of that?
Well, the dangers are completely unknowable, which is essentially the danger.
Yeah.
Here's the situation. If a Mexican travels across the border into the U.S. illegally and is apprehended by Border Patrol and turns back to the Mexican authorities will take them back. But if a Guatemalan or a Honduran or a Costa Rican or a Pakistani or a Bangladeshi or an Iraqi or a Libyan or an Egyptian or a Chinese come across that border and are apprehended, Mexicans won't take them back because they're not Mexican citizens. So the U.S. has to detain those people. And they have a right to a hearing to determine whether or not they should be admitted. That has been determined by our court systems. Here's the problem. The system right now is so overwhelmed that there's like a 2-year backlog.
Right.
So what ends up happening is they let these people loose into the country and essentially put them on an honor system that they will come back for their hearing.
And good luck with that, right?
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
That's how broken our system is. And that's what's going on right now. I mean, this is a coordinated effort to flood our system,
right?
And to completely overwhelm it. This is not an accident. This is a funded operation. This is coordinated. I won't hold my breath, but I hope that our intelligence services are trying to infiltrate this operation and determine what is going on here, because this is not something where people just all of a sudden gather together and start walking to the U.S. border from places all over the world. That's not what's happening here. This is a coordinated effort, in my opinion.
All right, Christopher, I do have a caller that wanted to ask you a question. Could you hold for just a few moments? We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll go to a caller.
Sure.
And then if you just have a few more minutes, we appreciate your time. All right, then, let's take a quick break, Mr. Board Operator. The number here is 504-527-0800. Our guest this afternoon is Christopher Holton of the Center for Security Policy. We're discussing national security and all things related to that. We will be right back.
Go your way, and tell John what things you have seen and heard, how that the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. Hello, friend, this is Evangelist Joey Kelly, and I'm here to tell you that I believe the gospel that Jesus preached here in Luke chapter 7. Please join me right here on this station, 8 o'clock Sunday morning, for the Joey Kelly broadcast.
Would you like to increase your knowledge of the Bible? Would you like to become more effective at sharing the Word of God with others? Koinonia Bible College has a program designed to give you a deeper understanding of the doctrines and principles of the Word of God. The next term begins Monday, April 29th, with both morning and evening classes being offered, including Romans, Systematic Theology, 1 Corinthians, Church of the Bible and Science, and more. Koinonia Bible College offers 2 diplomas and 3 degree programs. Their goal is to provide training in the ministry by offering a wide selection of courses designed to prepare the student for practical Christian service. Classes are held in Marrero, Slidell, and Waveland, Mississippi. Koinonia Bible College also offers correspondence courses for those students desiring to work at their own pace. Come and receive the training you need to become a more effective minister of the Word of God. For more information or a free registration packet, please call 504-340-6739. That's 504-340-6739. Or visit our website at www.kbc.org.
This is Dave Howard with the Voice of Truth's Wake Up Call. I encourage you to listen to the Voice of Truth on WSHO, where God's sun shines in New Orleans at 800 a.m. Why listen? Because Christians are paying the price for our silence. And in 2 Corinthians 3:17, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And the Voice of Truth will reveal how to speak Christ's liberty into the culture in which we live. May God bless you this day.
Did you know that you can watch as well as listen to the current word on WSHO radio? From your desktop, laptop, iPhone, or other connected devices, go to WSHO.com to listen and watch. Put yourself in our studios, post your questions and comments for the hosts, and chat with other viewers. We're Sunshine 800 AM, and we'll see you live online.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to The Current Word here on WSHO Radio in New Orleans, Louisiana. On the line with us now is Christopher Holton with the Center for Security Policy. Christopher is having a special conference, and we'll announce that one more time before the show's over. But first, let's go to the phone lines and speak with Kevin. Kevin, go ahead.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hey.
Hello to you, to your listeners, and a special hello to Mr. Chris Holton.
Yep.
I really enjoy...
Good afternoon to you, sir. It's great to talk to you.
Sure, thank you. I enjoy Chris's commentary. I've heard him on other venues.
Yeah.
And he's just really a really a wealth of information
Amen.
on foreign affairs. And
that is
you know,
true.
we're really
Thank you, Kevin.
his hard work.
Kevin, the check is in the mail.
I got one quick question and then I'll hang up. I've heard the situation with Julian Assange compared to what happened back during the Vietnam War with the so-called Pentagon Papers, and one of the newspapers, one of the prominent newspapers publishing those documents. And I was just wondering if you could kind of give us a little background on that, and then give us your take on what you think about if there's a comparison, you know, there, or if there's any double standard. You know,
all right, interesting question.
I just don't know. You know, to me, the question comes down to what extent did Julian Assange...
Keep going, Christopher, go ahead.
To what extent did Julian Assange collaborate with Bradley Manning? Because what Bradley Manning did was to download some 18,000 documents. Had no idea what was on most of them. The overwhelming majority of them, he had no idea what was on. He did it out of a variety of sick and twisted motivations, not the least of which was that he didn't want to be a boy anymore. He wanted to be a girl, and he was mad at the Army about that. Why that's the Army's fault, I'll never know, but I digress. He downloaded 18,000 classified documents, which did, in fact, reveal sources and people who were working with the U.S. military in Iraq, and resulted in harm and injury and death to those individuals. Bradley Manning should have never been released from prison. Barack Obama was disgraceful in doing that. But what is not clear to me is whether Assange helped him plan that, or whether Assange just received that information. The information should never have gotten out. That's my opinion on that. But because, you know, it's not like Bradley Manning could say he knew what was on these documents, because there's 18,000 of them. You can take the Evelyn Wood speed reading course, and you're not going to get through 18,000 intelligence documents in any time under a year. And so the question here has got to be, you know, determined in court, the degree to which Assange arranged for that and conspired for it. And I just don't know the answer to that question. It hasn't come out yet. So that's about all I can say about it at this point.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a difference of opinion. You read or follow one person, and they seem to think that Assange is a hero. Others feel like he's a traitor. And so you're saying that from your point of view, it depends on, you know, what he knew and when he knew it, basically, I guess.
Well, yeah, you see, Assange, if he was playing the role of a journalist, let's say, and he received that information, that's different from if he was working with Bradley Manning and getting Bradley Manning to go in and download classified information to steal it and to release it. So what Bradley Manning did was definitely a crime. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. But Barack Obama let him out. Right. Which
is ridiculous.
One of the things that really, really gets me angry.
Yeah.
Is that.
So so Assange for the last 7 years has been holed up at the Ecuadorian embassy. Is that the right one?
Ecuadorian embassy in
Ecuador.
In the UK.
Okay. So he's in the
UK.
Okay, so he's in the
or maybe in Sweden. I'm not even sure which Ecuadorian embassy.
But it was the embassy of Ecuador that in whatever country he's holed up in. Okay,
somewhere in Europe. I should know that, but
that's
for
okay.
some reason
No problem.
It's not coming back to me right now.
Okay, I'll try to find it. But just recently he was kicked out of there. And they decided not to. So basically, he had sought asylum. Why he picked the Ecuadorian assembly, I don't know. I have no idea. But he was kicked out. And so do you know what his fate is right now, like where he is and what's going to happen to him?
No, I think he's going to be extradited to the U.S. and he's going to be tried.
Uh-huh. Well, that's in a way kind of good. At least he might get a fair trial, right? Like he might get, we might get to the truth of for, at least it's maybe good for the truth, as far as what really happened, and did he have any culpability, as you were saying? Yeah. So just to let you know, I just Googled it. Everything's on Google. So Assange was in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, and as soon as he was evicted from there, then Assange was arrested by the police in London on an extradition warrant from the U.S. Justice Department. He is charged with a conspiracy to attempt to hack a computer in connection with what you talked about the Bradley Manning situation. So I know I've heard a lot about that case, and I haven't really, I don't really know, what whether he's a hero or whether he's a traitor, or treason. But I think we'll find out.
I would be distrustful of anybody who says they do know at this point.
Gotcha.
Either way, because the information just has not come out yet.
Right. All right. So, Christopher, once more, we're almost out of time, and I appreciate you staying with us all this time. If you could just once again announce about the meeting that you're having and why you think people in our audience should attend.
Well, if you're interested in national security, if you're concerned about the threats that we face, particularly the threats from jihad, we have an event that's going to be coming on May 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. That's Tuesday, May 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Atmos Center at 101 Airline Drive in Metairie. If you are interested in this event, please email cspgulfsouth@usa.com. That's cspgulfsouth@usa.com.
All right.
To RSVP and to get more information.
Sounds great. All right, Christopher, thank you so much for joining us today and for all that great
Thank you.
information. We look forward to talking with you again soon. God bless you, sir.